And we're live. Welcome, everybody, here to the Lakers Lounge. I'm Anthony Irwin, joined today by Harrison Faigen, he of SB Nation, he formerly of Silver Screen and Roll, he usually of this podcast. He oftentimes in a feud with his cat. Like, how many more introductions should we go here?
I think you hit most of the prevalent things. He actually did take a swipe at me this morning. He bumped into my leg, seemed to want to be pet. I was petting him. He's purring, and then just randomly, just on sight, he's like, "Nope, gonna try and claw your arm open." So, I mean, that's why I'm wearing these bandages right here. I'm just kidding.
No, I was gonna say, like, it sounds like it sounded, he kind of bumped into your leg and then flailed all over the place. That's the Devin Booker move, right?
Well, the difference is like he's flopping, but while also committing an offensive foul. It's like it's more in the Chris Paul school where it's like he's flopping, but he also managed to punch you in the nuts. Like it's like. Or Draymond Green, really. Like, Draymond Green classic. Like, it's the Yusuf Nurkic, like, oh, my God. And then, like, I catch you in the face with my elbow,
Yeah. Well, had Chris Paul remained a Sun for a little bit longer, maybe he would have taught Devin Booker the next step in that lesson.
You could see the veteran influence on his game, I think. It's just like who
I've never
seen who he was molded by.
You seemed a lot less like surprised by it than I was. I had never seen that before. I had never seen a player without the basketball run into a defensive player who was getting ready to guard somebody and do so intentionally and get the foul. And it was almost called a take foul because the Suns almost committed or should have did actually commit a take foul later in the game and it wasn't called. I don't know why we aren't talking more about how bad the referees are just always in the NBA.
Well, I mean, it's gotten to the point where, number one, on the foul stuff, like, I think that I can't even blame the players anymore when the officiating is so bad that they're just going to reward it. Like, their incentive structure is it's sort of out of whack with like what is actually entertaining basketball to watch. And so
it's like really the media industry now. Like you're incentivized to say really stupid stuff because it's going to go viral and eventually your audience is going to grow because you say really stupid stuff. And eventually like who's Emmanuel Acho, like you are just that guy. Like,
I thought you were talking about your business model.
No. I'm trying to like slide under the radar. Yeah, I'm trying. Yeah, I thought about doing that. You know me, Harrison.
What do you mean? You thought you do it all the time?
I do not do it all the time.
That's what's beautiful about it is that you never believe that that's what you're doing because you see, again, to people that always ask me, they're like, how does Anthony like summon up this fake outrage? It's like, no, this is real. If anything, he holds back sometimes on the show on like how mad he actually is about certain things.
Yeah, you guys should see me after the show.
Yeah. Just showing Raj how sausage is made. It's just like, it's,
poor Raj. Poor Raj. Like, all right, Raj eventually is probably going to hear this or whatever. But like after he and I will do post-game shows or he just comes on the pod or whatever, he'll have a couple questions for, after the pod. And I'll kind of tell him through my experience in this stuff that like, this is kind of how this goes. And we always joke, like, this is how the sausage is made. And he's like, I never want to eat sausage ever again. Like, I just like he has just like this like scarred face when I tell him about how like the Lakers actually operate. Because that's the thing. Like, he doesn't. He really cares about the media industry. He really wants to get a job in it. But he's more like such a fan that he doesn't want to believe that the Lakers can do dumb stuff all the time and do dumb stuff because like they are kind of a dumb organization. And he's like, no way. I don't believe it. I don't believe that these
look, we all go through this. It was like us believing in Jim Buss because the scouting department was really good. And it turned out he didn't really have like a whole lot to do with that because it just continued right along a pace. Or, I mean, maybe he contributed, I'm sure. Like, it said that he sort of helped, I guess, like spearhead the Andrew Bynum acquisition, which is like one of the rare cases of owner-son, it being leaked that they pushed for something and it wasn't like a horrendous move, and so I guess that's, good on him. But I mean, we all want to believe that these people are like smart and capable and, always make decisions based on just sort of basketball logic. But, I mean, that's not how almost any team in the NBA is run. There's like petty sort of politics and different considerations and business stuff that goes into like every team to some degree.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's what we would like to believe about all industries, right? Is it like at the very top of them, the people who are employed at the very top of these industries are there because they deserve to have that stuff and the meritocracy exists. And it's like,
and I'm here to tell you the meritocracy does not exist.
Yeah. You have enough, you deal enough with executives at the top of the industry. And you're like, God, all right, I could see why half of our industry has been laid off in the last couple of years. But anyway, we're going to talk today about a question that I had. So the way that this played out, I had this question that I broached at while the Lakers were playing the Suns Sunday afternoon. I will put it up on the screen again because I can do such a thing. No one man should have all this power. I'm in a weird spot with this team. I obviously want them to succeed, but any success that increases the chances that Ham is back next year might actually be a net negative. He's the worst coach I've ever had to watch, Byron included. So we're going to talk a little bit about that.
A couple weeks for Byron. Back on Spectrum Sportsnet, he rose one spot in or maybe more than one spot. I don't know.
Yeah.
But in Anthony Irwin's coaching rankings, Byron's back, baby.
It was funny to see like how many coaches were competing for that, right? Because like Mike D'Antoni did a really poor job, I thought, with the Lakers when he showed up and immediately started a blood feud with Pau Gasol. So I think he belongs in that conversation. Then you have Luke Walton, who was so bad that Julius Randle and Brook Lopez were both like, I never want to play for the Lakers ever again. And they both walked for nothing.
Brook Lopez and then cried on the bench in his favorite city in the world because of Luke Walton.
Yeah. Literally had to go to the locker room with a towel over his head and then come back and compose himself. So
and at that moment he decided, I'm going to become a defensive player of the year candidate and destroy the league as my revenge for this. And good for him, it worked.
Yeah, shouts to
I'm going to become the perfect LeBron team center just to show them what they messed up.
Yeah.
He was the rare guy that was slighted into becoming a role player. Like, usually you hear about the opposite. It's like, someone got pissed off and they they worked and they like developed themselves into this like star player or whatever, just like through the sheer doubt of their haters.
Yeah.
Like, no, he's like, no, I'm going to become the greatest role player imaginable for the guy that you guys are about to sign next summer because I hate the Lakers so much.
And it worked. Then he went out and won a championship with Giannis, doing a lot of the things that the Lakers could have really, really used. And then all right. So I mentioned Mike D'Antoni. I mentioned Luke Walton, also Byron Scott, like we talked about. People mentioned Del Harris, who didn't want to play Kobe.
You always are the one that brings up Del Harris. You hate Del Harris.
I quite a bit. Those years, like watching those teams that like you look at that roster, right? Like that roster, it had Nick Van Exel, it had Eddie Jones, it had Kobe Bryant, it had Shaq. It was such a fun young core or whatever, but they like played such a boring brand of basketball because Del Harris was this like librarian who happened to pick up a whistle one day. And then let's see, who's the other one? Kurt Rambis also was mentioned there. And it's just crazy how much competition exists for like worst coach that the Lakers fans have ever had to watch. This is the same organization at one point employed Phil Jackson. How do you not learn anything?
You know what? I'm going to say a sentence that I'm not sure I've ever said in the English language before, but I'm going to defend Kurt Rambis. I don't think he deserves to be on there. He was like an interim coach. That's not his fault. You can't put an interim coach on that list. I'm sorry. Like he went on and proved that he's one of the worst head coaches ever with the Timberwolves, but we can't call him that like in Lakers history, Well,
I feel like because I think he got hired to the Timberwolves before Twitter, right? This was a little bit before Twitter.
I think it was like sort of around, but not.
He was like at the very beginning. I feel like, but had a coach been hired after his interim stint with the Lakers by another team there, right? Like that would have been pretty universally panned when it happened, and if it happened at a time when
Well,
like
he was
Lakers
coming off
or
being like
NBA Twitter
he
was
was the like the latest like sort of assistant du jour like of like the cycle because he had contributed to like I believe was he the defensive or offensive coordinator? I think it must have been defensive because the triangle, right? So like I assume, yeah, I don't know. He was one of the coordinators for the Lakers under Phil
he was
for
defense
the
because
title.
Tex Winters was the offensive coordinator, and then
Yeah, so
yeah.
although it would have been funny if they're like, oh, the Kurt Rambis, he was the offensive coordinator of Phil Jackson's offense that is completely built, and I guess he was just like sort of telling them what Phil told him to say. I don't know, like.
Well, it was funny to see Tex Winter back in the news where apparently Wilt Chamberlain was dunking free throws, and he was like, "We can't have this." College,
yeah.
Like,
there was no
ran to
footage,
the
and so
NCAA,
he
was
like went. He drove all the way to an NCAA convention, and he was like, "You got to outlaw the dunk, the free throw dunk. It's coming." It's like the guy in a disaster movie. They're all like sort of having these hush meetings. He like kicks in the door. He's like, "Guys, you're never gonna believe what I just saw. You got to outlaw the free throw dunk. I'm telling you right now."
The dunk in its entirety, right? Like
make it illegal.
Basketball eventually outlawed it completely.
I'm here to tell you, this Wilt Chamberlain guy, he's too good.
It's like because all of Kareem's time at UCLA, I don't think he was allowed to.
No,
dunk.
He was not. Yeah, I think that was a Kareem rule, though. No, I think it was Wilt.
They outlawed I think the impetus to it was Wilt, and then because eventually, like Wilt and Kareem did like there was crossover in their NBA careers.
So they played against each other. They're closer in age than I was. Remember? Yeah,
that's the craziest thing about Kareem is like he was there with Oscar Robertson, he was there with Wilt, and then also he was there with the Showtime Lakers. It's an insane career that Kareem had. But anyway,
I mean that's how we're going to talk about LeBron. We're like this guy played with like guy played with like
a third of
Shaq
the entire career.
He played against. He's like one of the only guys he played against.
Ever.
He's going to be able to say that he played against like prime Shaq and prime Wemby. Like that's the evolution of the center position. Like it's
and Jokic, dude. Jokic is going to be.
I that wasn't meant as a slight to Jokic. I just mean those are two as possibly far in the opposite direction of each other, body composition and skill wise. That he was playing during like the Shaq days. It's like saying like a caveman was like he like remembers dinosaurs, and then he also like was there for like the Roman Empire. It's like just unprecedented longevity.
Yeah, tell me about the woolly mammoth. So we're gonna back to the subject at hand, though. I was marveling at how much competition there is for worst Lakers coach of all time, and I feel like people kind of missed the point there, right? Like I framed it. I even made a separate video here on the lounge. In the lounge, please subscribe if you are listening and watching live to this feed right now. YouTube.com/@LakersLounge is where you can find us. But I made a separate video on this subject because I'm legitimately curious how Lakers fans feel about this. I think I know where I stand on this, where I would rather, I think the Lakers lose this season so that Darvin Ham is not a part of my basketball life anymore. I also think like the bar is a little higher. Like this was a bit of the conversation too that I found interesting there as well. Sam Quinn of CBS, I believe, was
CBS.
Like the wheels would really have to fall off for Darvin to not be fired. I'm like, you've had AD and LeBron healthy all season. You're currently at the 10 spot. And you had a piece in a traditional media platform, The Athletic, where 6 different people told you this guy sucks at his job. I don't know. I can't find any extra wheels on this cart anymore. But yeah, I'm curious, though. I wanted to start the conversation with that.
I guess if we're doing that analogy, like LeBron and AD are really the wheels. Like the car's still going. It's just like the doors have fallen off and stuff like that. Like it's,
or
like,
it's just like sliding on the ground.
Yeah.
Like it's just, they are literally, they're pushing a cart that does not have wheels anymore. They had to get out and push this.
Vincent already fell out, and it's just like, what can you even be expected to do at that point?
But yeah, Harrison, you made a bit of a face while I was talking that I would prefer that the Lakers either not make the play-in, not make the playoffs, because even if they make the play in at the 10 spot, I don't see them winning 2 games in a row to get into the playoffs, let alone, you would eventually have to win 6 out of your 9 games in order to advance into the second round of the playoffs, right? If you enter the
max
play-in
9 possible games.
Yeah. But I personally, I don't consider one playoff round important enough to me as a basketball fan to warrant the chance at Darvin Ham being back next year. Where do you stand on this?
Well, this is a case where my my professional and my personal interests align, in that I would like the Lakers to go as far as possible for like a multitude of reasons. Like it's always, it's great for business when the Lakers, keep on churning. So I will say, like, and I would assume it is for you too, and this podcast feed. But yeah, I mean, so
although if I could break the news that Darvin Ham got fired,
you're just addicted to news breaking now. You're like, yeah. No, Anthony, we know how the Lakers announce coach firings. It's by having it go to Woj 2 minutes before the game is even over. And I think it was like right as the game ended. But
it was like 30 seconds. It was like the game ended. It was like, by the way, Frank Vogel, you're gone. Before they even
Woj had that like scheduled in TweetDeck. But to answer the question, like seriously, like if I'm trying to look at this as like an analyst fan, whatever, like I don't, but just because I want him to figure it out. I think that the best case scenario for the Lakers long term, and I'm not saying that I think that this is a likely scenario based on everything that we've seen, but the best case scenario is that Darvin sort of, finds the right answers down the stretch. It turns out, hey, he went through a learning curve, but maybe he's sort of back more on the track to being the type of coach that we all sort of thought he could be coming off of sort of the Western Conference Finals run, where it's like, okay, clearly has some things to learn, but young, promising coach learning on the job, seems to, be able to generate buy-in in the locker room. But, again, we've gone over this. He sort of seems to have lost that second part and its effect, and like his answers to the first part have not been that great, so as to overrule, be like, the locker room's all pissed at him, but at least he has all these great strategic answers. It's sort of, you're batting 0 for 2 right now, and that's been sort of, I think, with the one sort of leading to the other, where it's like the bad strategic answers sort of lost him the locker room potentially, and it's sort of hard to see him coming back from this. But I think ultimately the best case scenario is still that you root for the Lakers, you root for them to do well, you root for Darvin to do well, and for them to sort of figure it out, and all, maybe the locker room sort of gets back in his favor, or the Lakers do what they normally do and they overhaul half the roster this offseason anyway, and maybe after an offseason, LeBron and AD with a more talented roster, whatever, they sort of buy back in again and everything's hunky-dory. Just because, I mean, one of the things that you have to consider about things going so bad that the coach gets fired again is, and I know what you're going to say to this. Number one is newer is not always better. Again, the Lakers seem to have made a downgrade in this department, theoretically, with their most recent sort of process. So
I don't think we can say theoretically anymore. I think Vogel is objectively better at coaching basketball than Darvin Ham.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. I'm probably not being fair enough to Frank or whatever. That last year,
the guy who won the championship.
But again, in retrospect, not really his fault. Like, he didn't do himself favors, but also not really his fault. Like, we saw how bad that roster was, and how basically the entire roster he coached, other than like LeBron, AD, and Russ and Austin Reeves, I think, is like out of the league now. I guess DeAndre Jordan. And
miraculously.
Yeah, and so the big four, as I called them, of that team. The four best players on that team by any objective metric. Or 5. So I just, and then, so you don't know that the answer is always going to be better. You don't know where the Lakers are going to penny pinch down the line because they're paying 2 coaches, because Darvin still has 3 years left on his deal after this one. It's hard for me to believe that they're going to greenlight that sort of firing and then be like, well, let's really spend on the next head coach. Let's give this guy a 5-year deal. And, the big money that we're seeing go to the top coaches now, Steve Kerr's making like 17 million or something a year. I don't see the Lakers sort of reaching that barometer. And, I know when you and Raj were talking about this in Slack, I don't know if this made its way to the airwaves. Maybe you hope for like Ty Lue just doesn't reach an agreement.
Damn
with
it. I was
Clippers.
hoping you hadn't seen that. I was hoping to spring that on you because I wanted to see your face at the hilarity that could possibly ensue if the Clippers flame out early this year and they decide that they want to go in a different direction. They don't extend Ty Lue because I think he has 2 years left on his deal. And
I think
after this year, he would have one more. Huh?
Yeah. After that, I think he has 1 year. I think he has next year left, basically.
Right. And so essentially, and that's like usually when teams will cut ties with a coach, right, is when they'll have 1 year left. That would be what would be kind of out of the ordinary here with Darvin, is that he would have 2 years left on his deal. And normally teams prefer to fire coaches when they only have 1 year left on their deal. It almost never happens when a coach gets
Darvin
fired with
3.
no.
He got a 5
Does he
year
have
deal.
3? I thought he has 2.
Yeah. I thought he got a 5-year deal initially.
Oh God.
Because that was the Lakers responding to the criticism that they didn't give Frank enough of a leash. So this is what I'm saying, that you don't always understand how this organization is going to overreact to a previous mistake by swerving in the complete opposite direction. So they're like, well, okay, the first time head coach thing didn't work. We need a proven championship coach. Let's go get Doc Rivers after the Bucks fire him.
Do you think I don't think the Bucks can fire him? Can't. No way.
Could you imagine though? My theory on this is that Doc was like, he's like, wait, they're willing to fire this guy with like 5 years left on his deal. I could do that job. And
Monty too.
Yeah.
him and Monty are like, all right, we have to up the ante here. Like, let's keep outdoing each other to see how bad we could possibly be. And Darvin was like, I can be really, really bad.
So I'm not saying that they shouldn't fire Darvin, I guess is what I'm getting at. The thing that worries me is how they will overreact in the future to this and create like more bad situations by like, we're actually, we're going to ask like Austin Reeves on his next deal to like play for exposure because we're still paying Darvin's salary. And so we want to like sort of, we want to ask him to take a little less.
So I've thought about this a lot.
Best case scenarios, it turns out Darvin's a good coach and he just like forgot how to do that for like half a season and he's great. I don't think that that's what's happening. So I think maybe, I guess the answer that I would come to is ultimately like, if they do flame out like that, I think they probably should fire him because I don't see how you like sort of recover from that at all, like within the locker room or whatever from that kind of failure. Like some sort of change has to be made, but I'm not as gung-ho with the axe as you are, I guess, just because I think it would still be better for the Lakers if he sort of figured it out.
It would, but I just don't think he's capable of it. Like, I don't think he's a capable head coach, like it's kind of like, we've all dated somebody who, you hope that there's a couple things for the most part, you really like being with this person. But there's just a couple things that either really annoy you or become like they're red flags really early. And then those red flags get louder and louder and louder and bigger and bigger and bigger. And you hope that one day that they address those things and eventually like, they become kind of the person that you think that person is capable of becoming. I'm talking obviously about Jen, right? Where she's been with me long enough and she's like, I hope that this guy will eventually be the person that I think he's capable of being. And I'm like, babe, you're 20 years in. Like,
yeah,
I am me. And but like with Darvin, it's like we're 60 games into this, right? And even last year, there were people I think look at that. I wouldn't go so far as to say that last year's playoff run was a fluke. I do think there were some circumstantial things going on, right? The Warriors were in flux. Clay was had obviously taken a real step back in his career and has not yet been able to recover. And I think that was a big thing that was going on there. Obviously Jordan Poole, we've seen what's become of his career too, right? So I think the Lakers kind of caught the Warriors on a good day in that series. The Memphis Grizzlies have completely imploded since the Lakers beat them, right? And we're already on their way there with Steven Adams and Brandon Clark not being available in that series as well. And then when you finally did play a good and whole playoff team, you got swept, right? And that's
competitive.
It was a competitive sweep. Sure. Yeah, it was totally competitive when you lost 4 games in a row and have not beaten them since. And so like
they made the Nuggets earn those wins, you know.
It's a good point. It's a good point. And yeah, I just
run it back.
But like that's actually like that's the part of all of this that really kind of bothers me, because I do hope that Darvin is gone. I don't think he's a good basketball coach. I don't think he's a good leader of men. I think he got too big of a head. I'm sort of there,
to be honest. You know.
Yeah. Like even with like it's kind of the reverse. I just don't know if Frank Vogel
rooting for them to fail, because I guess the bigger point, and this is what I neglected to mention, is the Lakers only have so many years left with LeBron or AD. So like the hope is still that, you know, they figure, you know, just those two guys sort of through the sheer strength of their star power, you know, are able to go on a run this year or whatever. So like I'm not going to root for them to fail just because it would feel like just another wasted year of this. But yeah, I mean, I
actually think though, like even on that front, I guess even on that front, I think the best case scenario for this Lakers season, best realistic scenario here for this Lakers season, is that they get into the play-in, they win the play-in games, they get into the playoffs. Jeannie gets her playoff revenue. You win. You know, let's say you even win a series there, and then after that series, you know, you lose to a better team in the second round. And after that series, LeBron and the Lakers, as part of these conversations, and we're going to talk here in a second about a potential long-term extension for the guy, or longish, you know, relatively long-term, extension for LeBron. As part of those conversations, LeBron says, I can't play for that guy anymore. And Darvin Ham gets fired regardless.
LeBron never does things like that. Okay.
I know. I'm saying
LeBron does not. LeBron just finds out that he just works here. He just finds out about all this stuff when the media reports it. Okay. He would never do something like that. I cannot believe that you would impugn this man's character.
That's the part of this that like I have found really interesting in doing more reporting this year, is that like there are just certain stories nobody's willing to touch. LeBron can't stand playing for Darvin Ham. Like I can just come out and say that. And like for some reason, nobody wants
this like 2 weeks before the trade deadline when I was there. Like you can see it if you just watch the bench.
I don't know why this isn't a bigger part of the conversation here. And like it doesn't mean that he doesn't play hard. It doesn't mean that he isn't effective on the basketball court. It doesn't mean that this makes LeBron a bad leader in any way. I think he recognizes that Darvin Ham sucks at his job, and he's like, "This sucks, everybody." Like,
the funniest thing about
Prince at the power forward again.
The sort of LeGM like stuff thrown around this year at times is like he so clearly does not have anywhere near the juice that he used to, because it's like they didn't make a trade, they didn't fire Darvin. Like what levers is he pulling? They're not doing anything that he wants them to do.
Well, that's the part that I've laughed at all season when to the people who are like LeGM. I'm like,
he's got
why would he subtweet himself?
He's got enough pull to do the clutch car wash reclamation project annually, I guess. That's where he's at. He can get Cam Reddish a deal.
But like I think though that like if the Lakers, you know, again, it like for the best case scenario, the things that Lakers fans should be rooting for here, because if they win a second playoff round, I think Darvin is safe. Right? Oh yeah. Like if they get into the Western Conference Finals,
the difference is you're looking for reasons to fire him. They're looking for reasons to keep him. You know, and so that would allow them. Hey, you know, got another tough draw in the Western Conference Finals, but we keep having success. And to be honest, like it's kind of hard to fire a coach if they've won, if they've gone to the conference finals 2 years in a row. You know,
But this is the thing. So like I personally have also marveled at the fact that the Lakers have found a way to be mediocre for the most part in the regular season with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Right. Like through this era, we
it's
keep
probably
seeing
the most damning indictment of Ham this year. Is last year you could point to the rust thing, you could point to the injuries. They still, like there were a lot of things that sort of dealt them a hard hand last year, where you couldn't really judge him based on the record during the first part of the season. And then, once they had the real team, they looked pretty amazing. But this year, they have had the two guys that matter. Really, like the four guys that really matter, like, LeBron, D'Lo, AD, and Austin, not necessarily in that order. But like they're four highest paid players, I believe, or maybe Rui's making more than Austin, but like they've had sort of who most would consider their four best players available and healthy almost the entire season. Like those guys have barely missed any time, if any. And Darvin's response was like, well, we got to bench two of those guys.
But yeah, but they have been, but this extends beyond Darvin, right? We are in year 5 of are we in year 5 or year 6 of LeBron? We're in year.
LeBron joined in the summer of 2018.
So we're in year 6. Wow. We're in the 6th year of calendar year of LeBron James being a Laker. And the Lakers over that time are like just above 500. And that's with like a heavily weighted first season where the Lakers were like world beaters that, the first year that AD got there.
Second season.
I meant first season of AD. The first season LeBron got hurt. And by the way, when LeBron got hurt, I think they were the 4th best team in the conference. When LeBron got hurt on Christmas.
It was like 20 or 30 games in, but still, it was like they were competing.
They were fun.
Yeah.
I like that team. But like that's why I still think that Darvin is worse than Luke, because like Luke was at least like above 500, well above 500 while he had LeBron healthy. But yeah, I think though that like with the Lakers being so mediocre for such a large sample size, and then you get into the playoffs, and that's when your stars win you stuff, right? Like when you get into the playoffs, that's when LeBron and like Jokic and Steph and Luka and all these guys, they play so many minutes and they play at such a high level that like you're able to overcome some other deficiencies across your roster or with your head coach. That's why last year, LeBron and AD, like go back and watch those games that the Lakers won there, right? The ones that they took seriously every other game there, because they literally had to, because LeBron and AD's bodies were breaking down. Like I know every other game AD was like became a bit of a joke, but I think it was out of necessity. Like they had to play so hard to win those games, even against a broken Warriors team and against a broken Memphis Grizzlies team. By the way, they almost lost to the Minnesota Timberwolves. People seem to forget that one in the play-in. But like the Lakers,
that was the night that Darvin knew he had to have Taurean Prince. He's like, this is a guy that we could go to war with.
Oh my God, you're right. Because that's the reasoning he uses with Cam, isn't it? I mean, the reasoning that I don't know if you listened to the show yesterday, but I've been told, this is not me speculating. I've been told by people close to that situation that he considers, like, because he likes to find analogs to that Bucks team that he was an assistant coach on when they won the championship. And his analog with Taurean Prince is Chris Middleton.
Never mind. Fire him. I forget everything I just said.
This isn't me. This isn't me like speculating anymore.
No,
I was joking about this with Jovan last night. I was like, dude, you'll never believe what I heard. And I said it on the air, and I have to repeat it now because I can't believe it's something that is I've been told. But anyway, like
I think AD is their Brook Lopez.
He plays a lot of drop.
Oh God. I'm done. Forget everything I just said. Root for these guys to lose out.
But yeah, this kind of gets me to that next subject that I wanted to talk about here. In the long-term extension, like, is it even worth it to you to have a conversation about, like, are you willing to pay $60 million to a 42? Like, of course. Yeah, I am.
My money,
what's the alternative?
Yeah.
And like, are the Lakers? Like, yeah, they are. I would say they are. but like the confidence.
I mean,
post
that's sort of the
LeBron.
cudgel that they've held over him. Seemingly, again, this is not reporting or whatever, but they haven't done anything he's asked him to do. He basically has pretty heavily implied through his actions and whatever that he wants. Whether it's trade, whether it's fire Darvin Ham, whether it's whatever. They haven't been doing the stuff he wants because they're basically calling his bluff pretty clearly. They're like, hey, you want to go play somewhere else? Be our guest. We know we don't think you want to. So.
I mean, that's a version of the conversation I keep having. When all the Knicks stuff was happening, like that's a version of the conversation that I was having with some Lakers person. I was like,
I mean,
what are you gonna do?
Have we stopped to like talk about how insane it is that Jeannie Buss was like told Joe Lacob, she's like, yeah, you'd have to talk to Clutch.
Dude.
She didn't even shut it down. She's just like, yeah go ahead.
Yeah, ask him.
We know he's not leaving. Go ahead.
There in like the number of things that I can't believe don't get more attention regarding the Lakers. That's way up there. The fact that she was just like, I mean, you could talk to him. He's gonna say he wants to stay here,
Yeah, I forget what podcast I was listening to. I think it was the Low Post where somebody was saying like most owners, if you make that call, are immediately saying like, oh, can I have Steph then? Can we talk to Steph's reps?
Right. And she was just like, you could talk to him.
She's like, yeah, you could talk to her. Call Rich. I don't know. LeBron. I don't.
Adele? You want to talk to Adele? Like,
yeah.
Can I talk to Adele? But yeah, it's just been, it's such a weird relationship between the two parties here. And I honestly think that it's like this staring contest.
It's like a passive aggressive marriage, like staying together for the kids, but there are no kids. They already traded all of them. Like, I don't know. Like,
staying together for Cam Reddish.
Are we the kids? Are we the kids? Because we're mad. We're not in like a better situation right now. Like is the fan base the children that they're staying together for?
Stay Together for the Kids is one of my favorite Blink-182 songs. That was such like a formative song, like that took place in my generation when I was coming up in high school or whatever. But yeah, I was just, it really does feel like two parties that like, or they're on a date and they don't want to be the person that gets up from the date, right? And they both just experienced the worst date of all time, and they just like, and they're just like,
now we're married.
I'll take the check. You're not taking the check. I'm taking the check. Although LeBron's pretty well, they're both really cheap, so they might be like, both with the gator arms. Yeah, I think with the question that I have to Lakers fans who are really quick to say like, I'm so sick of Le Drama, I'm so sick of Le GM, I'm so sick of Le Sub.
The drama's good. I haven't heard that one. That's funny.
But like the question I have is, they've been mediocre over a large sample size with LeBron and with Anthony Davis. Why? Like you made the case for not firing Darvin Ham. That I don't know.
Okay, so take it all. I take it all back. Go ahead and do that, but take that case and apply it to. Do you think they're going to be able to replace LeBron?
Right. Like we just think so. And by the way, when LeBron leaves here, when Kobe left, he had nothing but great things to say about the Lakers experience. Right?
No, they carried him out on a throne. It was like.
But like here, Raj put in Slack the other day. He would like to like get some truth serum in Frank Vogel to ask him about the last couple of years of his Lakers tenure. No, give me the truth serum.
Frank would still be really nice. Frank would be like, they were great to me. It's like we put in like enough to. This is like an elephant-sized dosage. He's like, yeah, I love Rob. That's like my brother.
He's like drinking it while they're like interrogating him.
He's just that nice. Like,
do you need more? Because I don't. I have more to say. I don't. But like, but no. Like with the person I want to use the truth serum on is LeBron, because he's gonna leave, and he has everybody that he talks to with Clutch. Obviously, he's the biggest star of his generation, so people are gonna look at look at that and be like, well, what was it like being a Laker? And, seeing as they have spent the last few years here,
he's like, well, they held my family hostage and basically dared me to leave them rather than make the moves that they didn't want to make.
like I don't have any faith whatsoever in this organization. And people are like, well, if LeBron leaves, he isn't there to mask their deficiencies. You guys think that they're going to be self-aware? Like LeBron is going to leave, and now all of a sudden they're going to grow the ability to develop the ability to be self-aware? Like, no, they're going to celebrate and be like, yeah, the guy that was holding us accountable is no longer here to be mean to us.
And also, again, like,
that's why Jeannie Buss doesn't like Jerry West. He looked around at the organization. He was like, you guys are all a bunch of idiots. And then they were like, all right, leave and never come back.
In fairness, that was just how Jerry West walked into rooms normally. Like,
no, that's like,
he throws a trophy through the wall, enters through the hole, and then he just calls everyone an idiot. And then he actually grabs the table and tries to hit everyone with it.
Yeah.
The thing that I will say is, like, I'm all for wanting people held accountable, wanting your team run the best, most efficient, all this stuff way. But, like, great. Like, if you have sort of personal, like, grudges, or you're tired of, X power broker or Y coach or whoever it may be, it's like, it's still the consequences of that, of like, okay, I want LeBron and AD to leave so these people will fail. And then I'm hoping that there'll be, like, more competent people put in place. How long does that take? Like, years? You want to spend years of your life watching them, like, figure that out? I don't,
Yeah.
Like,
well, also, what are the
we all only have so much time on this planet. Like, I don't want to spend 3 years watching, them, like, brick roster additions and be like, oh yeah, well, I don't know, maybe Rob will bring in, like, a better advisor next year. I don't know. Like,
but, like, what are the pieces that would get put in place? Like, you guys have Jeannie Buss getting fired? You have Jeannie Buss firing Kobe's agent? Like,
yeah, I don't see it.
And so I personally would rather keep LeBron around and
you kind of have to hope that Rob really is just, like, sort of like an every other year GM. Like, he's just really good every other year. And so, like, for whatever, like, he just locks in, performance evaluation time. But yeah, I don't know. Like, because it's not like I see her firing Kobe's agent or, firing Kurt Rambis,
Yeah. You have Rob oscillating from this picture to not there. This picture to not there. This picture to locked in.
Exactly. Who among us hasn't done this? It's
every other pod. I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know, like, you're hoping, like, the Buss Bros are going to come in and, like, basically seize power and that they're really good. Like, there are signs that they're good, but do we know for a fact that they're going to be able to, like, learn? Like, they can draft well for the most part, like, great. But do we know for a fact that they're good at the other stuff? We don't.
You know what makes me nervous about the other stuff? The fact that Jeannie and her, like, cabal of, cronies have been able to stave off the Buss brothers, who apparently are the only competent people in the organization.
And their sort of strategy is, like, whenever things go wrong, they're like, okay, well, we're going to let Jesse and Joey be more involved this time around.
Yeah. Yeah. I there's a lot, obviously, to this conversation. It's going to be the conversation that I think kind of, like, look, we have the next 10 games. I've talked about the run that the Lakers are facing in their next 10 games. And I would imagine these conversations are going to get more and more and more prevalent over the course of those 10 games as the Lakers, like, I think 3-6 is, like, what I'm hoping for in their next 9. But, and then we'll see where that puts them in the conference standings and stuff like that. I recognize that my stance of, please lose so that Darvin gets fired is extreme. It like you said, it goes against what is good for me on this show, because fewer people tune in to Lakers stuff when the Lakers are bad.
That's how ethical you are. You don't care. You just care about getting the honest truth out there. That's why you're my number one insider.
No, I care about my own about my own mental well-being, because Harrison, I'm not a good person to be around during these Lakers games. Like, people like, at some point I would like to get you onto those All Access Lakers shows one of these times. I I would like to I have a heart out here, so I got to get going here in a second. But I people always kind of chime in and as the game is going on, one of the comments that we always get on All Access Lakers is like, man, Anthony looks pissed. Like Anthony angry. And it's and it's even when the Lakers are up, I'm just not, I don't like the person I am while I'm watching Darvin Ham coach my basketball team.
And rather than therapy, I think the solution is for the Lakers to fire Darvin Ham.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm really curious how fans feel about this and how they will feel about this by the end of the season. That is going to do it though for this episode of the Lakers Lounge, as I rush off here to hopefully have some personal news to share after this conversation I'm about to get off on the phone for. So until then, and until the next time you guys hear from me, I'm Anthony Irwin. That was Harrison Faigen. This was the Lakers Lounge. Have a great rest of your day. Make somebody else's. And please subscribe to all of our stuff. YouTube, podcasts, Odyssey, Apple, iTunes, all that good stuff. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Wait, does your phone say incoming call, Rob Pelinka?